Okay, welcome. Today is our Tuesday Bliss Techniques meeting. A couple of announcements at the beginning. So the first thing is that I am intending to resume the Relax into Health, Wealth, and Happiness meetings on Fridays, starting this Friday. We had been on hiatus because we've done the Power of Perception on Fridays, but until the next installment begins, which I'm intending to, will begin in January. We'll resume Relax into Health, Wealth, and Happiness on Fridays. I will send out a link for that for joining live. I'm also going to reorganize the links that we use for these meetings so that there's not confusion about which link to use for which meeting and so forth. So look for that in the near future. Okay, so today is going to be a guided practice, and we're going to continue with our deep healing series. So you're going to want to have if possible, a good location, a good situation, so that you can really relax deeply. So obviously you work with whatever you have, and whatever you have will work. But if you have some ability to make some choices, then someplace that's relatively quiet, where you feel safe, comfortable, not too hot, not too cold, that kind of thing. You optimally you want to dress reasonably comfortably, not too restrictive of clothing, so that you can really feel good and relaxed and not uncomfortable. The most important thing, however, is because, as I said, all of that is nice to have. You want to set yourself up for success if you can, but then the most important thing is the how you set yourself up internally. And so internally, the most important thing is that you choose to be here. So that is something we could take a whole hour just on that topic, but we won't. But briefly, I will give you a little bit of guidance on what I mean by that. So choosing to be here means that right now, in this moment, you just notice that you actually can choose to be here. So obviously, you would say, "Oh, I'm already here." Yes, I understand you're already here, but you want to choose to be here. Because otherwise, you say, "Well, I don't really know why I'm here. I think I'm here. I've shown up, but choose to be here." So how do you do that? Well, just inwardly, just choose to be here. It's really actually that simple, but it's really profoundly powerful. Now, when you choose to be here, then you're offering yourself or allowing yourself the space to really be here. Because otherwise, internally, it's kind of cramped. There's all these other things going on, all these pressures, all of this other stuff, and it's pulling at your attention. And there will be little doubts, maybe, that you might not be conscious of, but nonetheless that are there. And so choosing to be here is very powerful. So just make that choice and inwardly allow that space so that you can really honestly be here. So if you want to feel that you have that inner space that you can really relax and be here and know that for the duration of this guided practice today, that this is what you're choosing to do. You're choosing this, you're choosing yourself, you're choosing this space, you're choosing this time, you're choosing this healing. And you can allow yourself that. So hopefully you can feel that. You can really actually notice that when you choose, you really can sense that space. You can really sense that there's a subtle, or maybe even not so subtle, letting go, where you've given yourself permission to really receive during this guided practice. So, as we've been doing in this series, it's a deep healing series. Now, deep healing can happen regardless of your external circumstances. So there's no external requirement, but if you can allow yourself to be in a posture that feels good to you, where you feel supported, you're not distracted excessively by discomforts or strains or things like that, that would be great. So it could be any posture that works for you: sitting, lying down, standing, reclining, upright. As I often say, if you can really be sitting upright in a good way, then that gives you some advantages. So that would be great if you can do that in a good way. But I'll be honest with you, oftentimes I find that challenging personally. So I want to be really clear with you and transparent with you that the supreme intelligence knows no limitation whatsoever. And the real honest truth is that the supreme intelligence doesn't have to differentiate between upright or lying down or sideways or anything. Okay. But for yourself, makes a subtle difference. So you just choose wisely. So we're going to intend to remain still for the duration of the guided practice, which will be the remainder of this meeting, more or less. So you want to choose a posture where you feel that I can probably be here in a good way, fairly still, without making a lot of voluntary movement for the next 45 minutes or so. So see what that is for you. And if you want to, well, I think that's enough. So go ahead and choose that posture. And then I'll invite you to close your eyes if it's comfortable for you. If you're lying down and you have any concern that you might fall asleep, then you might want to keep your eyes open. But closing the eyes can allow you to have a more internal focus, which is going to be helpful if you can do that in a good way. Okay. So we'll begin by becoming aware of the breath. So just notice the breath. Hopefully you can breathe through the nose. That is optimal if you can do it. And just let the breath be relaxed. Don't try to force the breath to be relaxed, because that won't work. I know I've tried it many times. So we really just have to start to surrender and trust that the breath is a gift from the divine. When we try to manage it, we introduce all kinds of complications and difficulty. When we allow for the divine to manage its gift to us, it will work out best. So you might have ideas about how you should breathe, how you are breathing, what it means, and how you need to change it, and all kinds of things. But just be aware. and allow for the breath to move or not move, be as it is, however that might be in this moment. And notice the habits that you may not have been aware of previously, but that you can become aware of now. Those habits that you've held, which maybe aren't so pleasant. Habits of tension, restriction, perhaps anxiety, and allow for this supreme intelligence, which is gifting you this breath now, to dissolve those habits. So you might be surprised to discover that you don't have to do it. You don't have to try. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to scheme. You don't have to have a plan. You just have to be willing to allow. Now, that sounds easy, and in a sense it is, but you might discover that there's some resistance. Perhaps there are some feelings or thoughts or images that you can become aware of that you have a tendency to react to. And when you react, the reactions interfere with the surrender, obviously. So just allow yourself to continue to surrender to this gift of the breath that is given to you by an intelligence that you are one with, and yet it is greater than the intelligence that you habitually identify with. So just be willing to trust that it's okay to be here without having to try. Okay, so now we're ready to begin to really receive the deeper healing. So if at any point you find that you've gotten distracted or agitated, then you can just return to this very simple breath awareness and just surrendering to the breath that is gifted to you. So you can notice now that as you allow for the breath, that there is actually a surprising amount of content. And we want to be clear, because if we're not clear, then we can easily be distracted by content. So the content is there bubbling, and we can start to grasp at it without knowing that we're doing that. So we want to be clear about what are we really doing here? That might seem like a strange question, but it's a very important question. So in this space of this gift of the breath that is occurring, that you're just simply receiving, just relaxing and allowing, you can notice that there is something that is true. So how can you know what is true? And just by allowing yourself to remain aware of this gift of the breath, so you're not trying, you're just allowing. You can also introduce this simple intention, a kind of curiosity to notice what is true, because you want to remain with what is true, like a thread that will take you home. So all of this content is there, perhaps in subtle form, perhaps not in such subtle form. And all of this content has been accumulated over untold time. We could call it impressions. And that content can take a lot of forms, thoughts, images, sensations. And some of it, because of habit, we believe is true, but we haven't inquired deeply enough. So here, as we're just allowing for this gift of the breath, just receiving, there's an opportunity for this inquiry without trying, without straining, but just effortlessly. So that the content is seen more clearly, and you can begin to discard what is not true. So, for example, you might notice that there are sensations and there are thoughts about the sensations, or that appear to be about the sensations, giving meaning or shape to them, suggesting that they're good or bad, desirable, undesirable. Perhaps that you need to do something about them, figure them out, protect yourself against them, grasp them, or get rid of them. And here, as you're just relaxing and allowing for the gift of the breath, just receiving with this simple intention of discovering what is true, you can start to allow for the various impressions to be clarified. Now, you might already have some clarity about what I'm pointing to, or you might not yet have clarity about what I'm pointing to, and you might have some sense of confusion about it. But if you just continue to allow yourself to engage with this very subtle process, it will start to get clearer to you. And the clarity is not necessarily something that you will think about, although it may produce some thoughts that would be coherent and clear, and even perhaps helpful to some extent. But you can trust that you don't need to grasp at any thoughts. You don't need to try and figure something out so that you can do something later. You don't need to have a repeatable process. All you need to do is just be here and engage with this simple process just now as it is. So you're just allowing for the gift of the breath, and you're just noticing whatever content is there, whether it's subtle or not so subtle. And you have this simple intention of truth, without, hopefully at least, without some preconception of what that even means. If you have a preconception of what that means, then you could choose just to let that go and just allow, because truth is. Truth does not need to be produced or created. It's not something that you're going to arrive at sometime in the future. It's actually who you are. But we're usually so distracted by all of the content and all of our reactions to the content that we overlook it. And so we perpetuate unwittingly all kinds of untruth. We're living somebody else's lives. And here is our opportunity to receive this very deep healing where we can release what is not true, not through some effort. You don't have to get rid of anything, push anything away. Just stay with this very simple process. And you will start to see that there's a lightness which begins to reveal itself to you. Now, along the way, any number of things could happen. So, whatever occurs, whatever content arises, just stay with the simple process. For example, you might have some content which is quite nice to you, pleasant to you, maybe thoughts that say, now I understand, now it's also clear. Now I'm going to be free. Now I can be happy. But if you grasp at that and try to make something of it, then that's not quite it. So just stay with the same process. Don't grasp anything. Don't try to heal yourself. Don't try to fix anything. Don't try to figure it out. All you need to do is just continue to allow yourself to receive this gift of the breath and just watch and see with this intention of truth so that you don't need to do anything, figure it out or grasp at it or collect anything or anything of that sort. You're just watching and trusting that the truth is here. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to disappear. It's not something that you have to urgently try to get. Because if you could get it, you could also lose it. So here we're just trusting and just watching. Now, similarly, but conversely, I guess, there could be content or experience which you have negative judgments of, fear or certain kinds of intensity. So if that happens, same thing. Just relax. Just watch. Just receive the breath. Again, when you're receiving the gift of the breath, it means that you're not doing it. You're not trying to breathe. You're not breathing in some sort of mechanical way. You're being breathed. Or maybe you discover it's not even that you are being breathed. There's simply breathing. Or maybe there's no breathing. There's just being. But don't strive for anything. Because when I say those things, maybe it's gives an idea that you should have a particular experience, and that's not true. There's no particular experience that you must have. There's only the experience that is happening, and you don't need to have it. You don't need to grasp it. You don't need to understand it. Just allow. So I want to say a few things about this. And as I do, just stay with the same process, and I'll remind you along the way. The truth of healing is wholeness. So healing means wholeness. Wholeness is already the case. So this deep healing is not something, it's not a repairing, it's not a mending, it's not a fixing, it's not an attainment. It's not something that you have to get. It's not something that was ever lost. But out of habit, certain patterns were strengthened and identified with. So there's only ever wholeness, but we forget because we identify with certain patterns. So we think things like, I am this person, I've had these experiences, these good experiences, these bad experiences, I've been injured, I'm a good person, I'm a bad person, I'm a smart person, I'm a stupid person, I'm an attractive person, I'm an unattractive person, I'm a spiritual person, I'm not a spiritual person, I'm almost there, I'm very far away, I have to do a lot of work in order to succeed. All kinds of things like this. And when we believe these things, as we do, then we react. And the reactions reinforce those beliefs. For example, if I think I'm a stupid person, then I might have an idea that I need to work really hard to understand things. So then my actions will reflect that. I'll work really hard to understand things, and then I will still not understand them. And that will then verify to me that I'm indeed a stupid person. That's just one example. But you can see how your whole identity is constructed of these kinds of beliefs about who you are and what you've done and where you've gone and how you relate to others and what others think of you and so forth. Your accomplishments and failures. And you react to these, which reinforce the identity. And so then you will think, I'm not whole. I need healing. Where is the healing? It must be somewhere in the future. I must have to do things in order to achieve it, to attain it. Now, hopefully, it's a bit clearer to you as you just continue to allow for the breath, the gift of the breath, that all of those ideas, all of those beliefs, all of those memories, all of the evidence, the whole identity is just a habit that is appearing now. And that underneath that, and indeed within that and around that and everywhere, is space, consciousness, being. And that's you. Wholeness already is here. So in this moment, as you just allow yourself to be and to receive and to be aware, you can notice that the truth of wholeness is already here. It's not at a distance. It's not in the future. It's not separate from you. It's just here. And the only thing that seems to interfere with that are these beliefs, the images, thoughts, and sensations, and how they combine in various ways. And you grasp at them and you say, this is true. So right now, perfect health, just to say perfect wholeness, perfect harmony, perfect intelligence is already the truth. And it's the truth which is most intimate. Nothing has to be done for it. You don't have to strive to attain it. It's just here. In fact, it's only when you make some move that you seem to be distant from it. It's only when you make that move to grasp at something, to cling to the belief, to identify with some of the content, that it seems as though the perfect health and wholeness and abundance, clarity, harmony is somehow distant or out of reach or not quite here. So as you continue to just stay with this very simple process, it becomes clearer that who you really are is this ungraspable truth, this perfect health, harmony, freedom, peace. It's already here and it's already who you are. You can see this directly because this truth is eternally so, constant, never not here. Everything else comes and goes. All the content comes and goes. All the thoughts, images, sensations, all of it just comes and goes. What is it coming and going in? This perfect health, which is already here, the wholeness, which is already here, the consciousness, which is already here. You are conscious. It's undeniable. You can observe that all of this content is coming and going in you, in the consciousness you are. The doubt might arise, something along the lines of, but, always starts with a but If that's true, why is it that I keep having this experience over and over and over? Why is it that I don't recognize myself? Why is it that it seems so true that I have all of these problems? Why is it that it seems that I need healing that's not here? And the answer to that, I suppose there are many answers, but one answer to that is that the doubt itself is more content arising in the consciousness you are, in the wholeness you are, in the health that you are, in the peace that you are. Sometimes called an ocean of bliss. And it's true. Here is this ocean of bliss, and all of these waves are arising and falling. And one of the waves that arises says, I remember that I've always been not whole. I remember that as far as I can remember, as long as I can remember, I've always been incomplete. This is just a wave that's arising in the ocean of bliss. And when it arises, if you grasp at it and react to it, then you say, see, it's true. But just stay with the simple process. Just allow yourself to receive the gift of the breath and see what happens. And notice that this ocean of bliss, or this ocean of consciousness, or this field of wholeness, whatever you want to call it, is alive and intelligent. So you can communicate with it. You can communicate, and you can affirm the truth. So try it out. Very gently, just affirm within yourself, I am whole. I am well. Just see what happens. Maybe you'll be surprised. Maybe you'll discover it's true. Now, there's a funny thing, which is that this wholeness is always here, but we get involved in these stories that are taking place in the future, things we're going to have to do and things we think we're going to face and how we're going to have to react to that and so forth. Notice though that this wholeness is actually always here. So try it. Think about what you're going to do later. You've got some idea of that. You know where you are right now and what time it is and what day of the week and whether you've had dinner or not. And at some point you'll go to bed, then it will be tomorrow. And so you can have those thoughts and then just notice that this wholeness is still here. You could have a thought about a nice thought, one that you consider to be nice. Notice that the wholeness is still here. And you could have a not nice thought. And wholeness is still here. So the secret is that wholeness is always here and you are always this. You forget it, but you can always receive it because it's always here. So it's a choice. Now, the tendency is to forget more often than we remember. But we can choose to remember more often than we forget. So I am inviting you now to make that choice, and you're in a very powerful position to do that. So you can just choose now that you remember that wholeness is here. And you remember how to access it and to know that complete healing anytime. Because the complete healing is independent of time, it's beyond time. So time comes and goes in the wholeness. Don't make it something that it's like a nice thing that, oh, maybe that in the future you'll be able to remember. Choose it now. Choose that. And all of these impressions that are there that we've been noticing through this guided practice have come about, many of them without conscious intention, you can choose a positive impression so that your life can be a conscious life, so that you can choose your life rather than just letting your life happen. So choose now and make it a very firm choice, a very sincere choice, one that you can truly see in your inner eye, that I remember that wholeness is here, and I can choose to rest in wholeness, to surrender to wholeness, and to receive that deep healing anytime. Notice the power of that. When you choose that firmly, it's not just oh, that would be so nice. It's different than that. It's a knowing. You know it. The same as you know that anything that you know, you don't have a doubt about it. You know that 2 + 2 is 4. It's not, oh, won't it be so nice when I can know that 2 + 2 is 4? Won't that be so nice? Oh, you know it. 2 + 2 is 4. You know it today. You know that you'll know it tomorrow. You want to know in the same way. You can choose that. You can choose to impress that now, that I remember that deep healing is here now, that who I really am is already whole, that I can rest deeply and receive the gift of the breath from the divine, the supreme intelligence, which is the uh, operator and organizer of everything, inner and outer, big and small. I am one with this. So impress that very strongly, very firmly, so that it's certain. You really know it. You know it. You want to be able to see that that is true, that you remember. You remember tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after for all eternity. There will no longer be any forgetting. And now, just sincerely within yourself, give thanks. Give thanks that this truth has been revealed to you within yourself, that this healing is true and complete. And then when you're ready, and there's not a rush in this, but when you are ready, whether that's now or later, when you are ready to conclude the practice, then do so slowly and mindfully by becoming aware of your body. So at that time, when you're ready, whether now or later, just become aware of the body part by part. And then you can again be aware of the breath, the sensations of the breath as it moves through the nostrils, aware of the sounds, aware of the space, aware of the room or location where you are. And you can then slowly begin to move the body, wiggling the fingers, toes, and then slowly you can open the eyes. You want to do that slowly so that you don't introduce too much contrast too quickly. And then take your time to slowly, mindfully transition to whatever you're going to do next. So that concludes the guided practice for today. It's a very simple practice, but very, very powerful. So be gentle with yourself, be loving, take good care of yourself. Blessings to you all. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.